If aliens once lived on Earth right here, millions of years ago, would we even recognize it? We often look up at the sky, searching for signals of extraterrestrial life among the countless stars. But perhaps what we're really searching for is buried deep beneath our feet, hidden within the flow of time, not space. Over the course of Earth's 4 billion-year history, modern humans have only appeared for the briefest moment. So, in the vast expanse of time that stretches before us, could there have been another civilization, intelligent, technologically advanced, perhaps once dominant, that existed and then disappeared without a trace? This isn't just speculation. Science calls it the Silurian hypothesis, a serious question. If a civilization existed before us, where are their traces today? We are about to embark on a journey not out into the universe, but backward into the past of Earth itself. And the answer, if it exists, could completely change the way we understand ourselves. Earth formed around 4.5 billion years ago, and simple life emerged not long after. But it wasn't until about 540 million years ago, during the Cambrian Explosion, that multicellular organisms truly began to flourish. By this time, Earth had already undergone millions of years of geological upheaval, with a rapidly changing climate and an atmosphere transitioning from lacking oxygen to one capable of supporting life. In the beginning, life on Earth was simple, single-celled organisms, isolated cells that were almost invisible in the vast expanse of the universe. These creatures lived in the primordial oceans, breathing in carbon dioxide and reproducing in harsh conditions. Though not complex, the appearance of these single-celled organisms was the first step in a chain of events that would lead to the development of all forms of life we know today. However, it was the Cambrian period that marked a true leap in the evolution of life, a dramatic and surprising development. This was the time of the Cambrian Explosion, when multicellular organisms rapidly thrived and most major animal groups, from vertebrates to complex invertebrates, began to emerge. It was the moment when biodiversity on Earth exploded at an astonishing rate. In just a few million years, our planet witnessed the rise of numerous complex life forms with entirely new body structures and functions. The appearance of hard shells, complex eyes, and the ability to move quickly marked a pivotal moment in animal evolution. This not only signaled a new era for life on Earth, but also the beginning of the first survival battles as species competed for dwindling resources. But here's the strange part. The Cambrian Explosion also created a black hole in the history of life's development. The traces of life from this period are so sparse that we still can't fully grasp the speed and diversity of this evolutionary leap. But what if, before this explosion of life, there had been intelligent life forms on Earth? In that vast stretch of time, modern humans, Homo sapiens, only stepped onto the stage about 300,000 years ago. While we now stand at the top of the evolutionary chain, the truth is, we are mere newcomers in the history of Earth. The development of humans can be broken down into 3 stages. 97% of our history, our ancestors lived scattered, wandering as hunter-gatherers, leaving behind no cities or temples. The next 2.9%, about 10,000 years ago, humans entered the agricultural era, settling down, building villages, and creating organized societies. Only the last 0.1%, about 300 years ago, we exploded into industrialization, leaving a profound mark on the planet It sounds grand, but in the vast flow of geological time, even humanity's greatest achievements are nothing more than a thin layer of dust on a page full of dense epochs. Layers of ancient soil, kilometers deep, have buried volcanoes, oceans, and entire continents. So if another civilization once existed hundreds of millions of years before us, it's not hard to imagine them being completely wiped out. Ask yourself, could the traces of a civilization, not ours, have survived hundreds of millions of years of weathering, drifting continents, and geological shifts? They could have been here, but if they were, time has cleaned up every trace of them so perfectly that we believe ourselves to be the first. In the past few million years, Earth was home to many species of hominins, our close relatives such as Homo erectus, Neanderthals, and Denisovans. They knew how to use fire, made tools, painted in caves, and may have had early forms of language. Despite their intelligence and widespread presence, most of their traces have disappeared almost entirely. So what if a species of indigenous aliens existed during this time? One that knew how to make tools, communicate, and had culture and intellect, but never crossed the threshold into advanced technology. They too could have been wiped from the memory of the planet, just as Homo habilis disappeared. The question isn't whether they existed or not, but rather, could we recognize them if they had existed? And the answer might very well be no. But there's nothing, no bricks, no walls, just the deep, unbroken silence beneath the earth. This is where imagination blends with science, and where all possibilities become worth pondering. Imagine a civilization not of humans, but of another species, perhaps bipedal reptiles or even a form of evolved octopus, living in ancient swamps. They may have built cities from wood and stone, used color to communicate, and lived in a stable, long-lasting society, but they never entered the industrial era. Then a meteorite, a pole shift, a supervolcano, or a global ice age sweeps through and everything vanishes. Rotting wood, shattered stone, language disappears. Time doesn't need war to destroy a civilization. It just needs enough time to turn everything back into dust. And so, the possibility that an ancient civilization once existed is not a question of imagination, it's a question, how well has time done its work? Let's suppose humanity goes extinct tomorrow. A few million years from now, will Earth remember us? Since the Industrial Revolution just 300 years ago, a blink of an eye in geological time, humanity has left an enormous mark on the planet. But will that mark really last? We've filled the oceans with plastic, altered the global nitrogen cycle with artificial fertilizers, and left permanent traces of radioactive elements in the earth, things that didn't exist in nature before we arrived. We've drilled deep into the Earth's crust for metals, so rare they could be used as the chemical fingerprints of a civilization. We've burned billions of tons of fossil fuels, changed the composition of the atmosphere, and raised CO2 levels to heights unseen in millions of years. The echoes of this could be imprinted in the geological record like a chemical scar lasting for hundreds of millions of years. And one day, if it all disappears, skyscrapers will collapse, streets will be buried, machines will rot away, but some traces might still remain, quietly lying at the bottom of the ocean, in the chemical layers of the earth, or within strange sedimentary deposits. Here's the paradox. If an ancient industrial civilization once existed, but was smart enough to live in harmony with the environment, they may have left nothing for us to recognize. No plastic pollution, no radioactivity, no climate destruction. A civilization that knew how to recycle, didn't deforest, didn't alter ecosystems. Because of this idealism, they would vanish in silence, leaving no goodbyes, no lingering doubts. So if there ever was an industrial civilization before us, would we even recognize it? Even if they existed for hundreds of thousands of years, far longer than we have, any remaining signs today could be too faint to distinguish from nature. A few strange elements, an unusual layer of sediment, and modern humans would just look at them, shrug, and say, "Must be from a volcano." And so perhaps we are walking on the very stones of ancient cities. Cities that once belonged to a world that modern science has never even dreamed of. What's truly terrifying isn't that we haven't found an ancient extraterrestrial civilization. It's this: we may be standing right in the middle of their ruins and we have no idea. After all the hypotheses, data, and grounded imagination, we return to one simple truth. No evidence doesn't mean no existence. In a planet that has existed for over 4 billion years, the history we understand is like a grain of sand on the beach of time. We don't know whether any civilization ever existed before us, but what we do know for sure is this: if we're not careful, our own civilization could vanish quickly, quietly, and be forgotten as if it had never existed. Maybe millions of years from now, a new intelligent species will walk the land where New York, Cairo, or Beijing once stood, and wonder if anyone ever lived here. They may never know of us, just as we have never discovered those who came before us. And perhaps the question won't be, did anyone ever live here, but rather, what will we leave behind when we are gone?